All right,
All right,
roll call,
we'll
Ryan.
take roll to start. Hardman,
Present.
Trimble,
Here.
Hudson,
I am here.
Trevelyan,
Here.
McKinney.
Here.
We have 5 members present.
Ryan, any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes, Your Honor.
Move approval of the agenda as distributed.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Agenda's approved. Item 2 is Citizens Forum, which is the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the City Council on any item that's not part of public hearings or new business. Okay, hearing no one, we'll move on to Mayor, City Manager, City Council, and other entity updates. We'll start City Council, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. We had a good development planning meeting this morning, as we typically always do on council meeting Mondays, but a couple of highlights for everybody. Big Al's Barbecue was dealing with some signage and other business-related operations, and frankly, they had a really good approach to being proactive about their issues, and I think there's absolutely a path forward for them to be opening a new restaurant in our community. Hopefully, it sounds like maybe in January.
Great.
Down there near Railroad and Grand. And Al was on the call. He was talking about his approach to barbecuing, and he was talking about the Texas Crunch. And I said, we ought to have that Texas Crunch in West Des Moines. So it was pretty good. There was also a discussion about a low-income housing project for seniors near the corner of 88th and Ashworth, and that's something that we advanced through the committee. So it was a good discussion this morning. Just a couple other items I wanted to highlight. We had an issue arise over the last couple of weeks related to COVID testing in our city, and the idea is to make it better known that you can get a COVID test in our community, and that we're welcoming more of that sort of testing here so we can fight back against what we're seeing. And so I think it's important that we do everything we can to provide the tools necessary for residents in our community and the region, frankly, to do what they can to address the problem. And so with that in mind, Lynn and Tom and I shared a call about this. And I know Greta and some others were involved in a way to provide greater flexibility for testing, COVID testing specifically, to exist in our community. And they came to a really good resolution. I just wanted to thank them for being proactive about finding ways how we can offer more testing, more tools for our residents on this important issue. I also want to mention Councilman Trimble. I know he spent a lot of time over the last month. Frankly, I work with a couple clients in the private space that do COVID exposure notification work. I brought this to Tom's attention and to Russ's attention. And so I learned about that in my private work. I felt compelled to at least notify folks here about what I was seeing. And Russ has really been active in collaborating with Polk County Supervisor Conley, Supervisor McCoy, and others, and outreaching to Department of Public Health to see if there's a way we can implement some additional tools and solutions in our community. And finally, I just want to say the Christmas tree lighting that we had, I think it was about a week ago now. It was really great to be part of that. And I thought it was great, Mayor, that as I learned, you received a letter about a year ago. You listened to that letter, you took it into consideration, and here we are having the first Christmas tree lighting, excuse me, here in West Des Moines. So I thought that was awesome, and I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Yeah, Violet, I think she was 9.
Yep.
So that was fun. Kevin?
Nothing this time, Your Honor.
All right, Greg?
Nothing at this time.
Russ?
Yep, I've got a bunch of things here. Oh, my mic is really turned up loud. Hold on. So F&A met November 18th, I believe it was. I think our last meeting was canceled. And we discussed and made some recommendations for with some of the agreement or some of the outstanding issues with Project Host. Through the outstanding issues involved, whether or not we would include interest and land acquisition as an eligible expense to be reimbursed as part of the TIF, and then whether or not the city would be able to use a sliding fee scale TIF within that area if the economic development prospect coming into the area, into that TIF area, received funding from the state, and we needed to provide matching funds. So Councilman Hudson and I recommended that we do not include interest as an eligible payment under the TIF, nor land acquisition cost. We also agreed with the developer that we could, if an economic development prospect came into that area, that we could use the 5-year sliding scale TIF as our 20% match for the state economic development program. And after that discussion, I believe the developer is going to get together with staff and hammer out some of the finer details of the development agreement, and then that was going to be moved forward for consideration before the full council. We also had a presentation from the Greater Des Moines home builders, as well as Hubble Homes, that have brought forward an idea that they have been studying for, I want to say, a few years now, because I feel like Rick Tollickson talked to me about this a couple years ago. And what it is a program, a trades type program that they're going to be implementing in our schools, where a number of communities, I think Waukee, Clive, Urbandale, West Des Moines, Johnston, I think they're going to be talking to Grimes and Ankeny, for people coming in, filing building permit fees. They would basically have to opt out. Otherwise, they would be included in providing some additional fees that would then be collected by us. We would get an administrative fee off of that. And then the cities would basically take that money that was collected and give it back to this group. They're going to have a selection committee, and they're going to award out the funds to various schools for different programs to try to help kids that are in the trades of, electrical, engineering, drywalling, those type of trades. I think it was based on $1 per thousand of the project cost, and then there was some maximum fees that they put in place as well. But it's a pilot project they're going to do for 2 years. And that will be coming, I believe, for consideration before the council to try to help high school kids maybe get into the trades a little bit more. And I know that there are different, each one of our school districts have different programs. I think one of the ones that's the most famous is the Waukee's Apex program. So we also had Christine Gordon brought forward a plan for using some of the low and moderate income TIF revenues. And I believe what we settled on, I think there was going to be $500,000, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, coming forward, and we agreed to take $400,000 of that money, or at least this is the recommendation, $400,000 of those dollars, and use that to piggyback off of the state's low-income housing tax credit project, so that if somebody comes here and they want to put up an affordable workforce housing type project, then we will have $400,000 to sweeten the deal on that project. We asked it to be on a project that's appropriately zoned for multifamily residential, and then the original recommendation was $500,000. We asked that $100,000 of those funds be used to put into owner-occupied rehab. I know Councilman Trevilian, you had brought that up as something you wanted to see done, so that's going to be making its way to the council as well. Human Services, I don't report on nearly enough. I'm the liaison for our West Des Moines Human Services. Since May 5th, we have spent a little over $205,000 helping 156 households consisting of 561 people. And we've assisted them to stay in their home through rent assistance, mortgage assistance, energy assistance, and waterworks assistance. That was the money, if you remember, that we allocated mainly through CDBG and CDBG Cares, as well as some human service discretionary funds mixed in to keep these people in their homes. So it's heartwarming to see that, and the program is working. I believe we still do have additional funding left in that program. Also, Human Services right now is extremely busy. They're in their busy time of year. They're taking applications for energy assistance, or energy financial assistance. They're also taking LIHEAP applications, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, and also holiday applications. Human Services provided 260 households with gift cards for Thanksgiving. And Polk County, I want to thank them, they donated $2,500 in food gift cards. Right now, they're also working to match up families for Christmas, for the Adopt a Family program, but they were not going to be doing toys for Toyland this year due to COVID, unfortunately. There's a lot of food insecurity, even in our community. In the food pantry, they do food giveaways on Monday through Fridays at 8:30. That consist of donated bread from Valley West Hy-Vee and Food Rescue, from Hy-Vee at 50th and Mills, and the Fresh Market west of Jordan Creek Mall. And it's not unusual to have a huge line of people waiting to receive that free food at 8:30 in the morning. And it's generally, all the food is offered for the day, that's offered for the day is gone between 10 and 10:30. Also, there are free flu shots being given right now at the free clinic, which is in the same building that our Human Services Department is located in. Anybody who shows up between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Tuesdays will get a flu shot. There's no charge for that, but they are asking for donations to be given. On another note, I'm sorry this is a long update, but on another note, I had the opportunity with Chief Scott to go down to the Central Iowa Shelter and Services bright and early at 6 a.m. in the morning to be able to serve the homeless a warm breakfast. And I'm very grateful for SIS and what they do for us, for the homeless in our community. Also very grateful for the pork producers and Fairway, who provided over 1,000 eggs, 150 pounds of bacon, 100 pounds of sausage, 60 pounds of cheese, and they were providing pork loin sandwiches that night for dinner as well. And there were a number of other local elected officials down there. Joe Gatto from the Des Moines City Council was there, Linda Westergaard, Chief Wingert was there, Dean O'Connor, Mayor of Altoona, who's always a character. So it was an honor to be able to serve those meals with them. And then last but not least, Parks and Rec Board. I'm the liaison for Parks and Rec. The board went through and prioritized the list of CIP projects for FY22 as recommendations of the council. And then 4 alternative plans to parkland dedication will be coming forward to the council. These are in cases where there wasn't maybe enough land to be able to dedicate for a certain park, or a park wasn't needed in that area. And so these are different alternative plans for parkland dedication that will come forward to us for consideration. Also, they added rental fees for tables and chairs and movie equipment at the Jamie Hurd Amphitheater. I've got to hand it to staff and the Park and Rec Board for really thinking out of the box and how else we can generate revenue down there. So they're going to have those tables and chairs and movie equipment for rental if anybody wants to go down there and sit down or have a table or watch a movie or, whatever. And also, we appointed Rick Swalwell to the Summer Sundays Concert Series Committee. It's a citizen committee that will be selecting bands for a series of 7 concerts in June and July down at the amphitheater. That is my update.
Okay, your name.
Well, only if we have time, right? Left over from the meeting. And that is a good event, Russ, that you talked about in Feeding the Homeless. I participated last year, stayed away a little bit today, this week because of COVID, but that is a good event. I did participate in the meeting this morning with Councilman McKinney on the planning and development. I won't repeat all of that, but I am a part of those meetings every Monday that we have city council dealing with those difficult, tough issues, working alongside with, again, Councilman McKinney. I am excited about working with the committee through the Human Rights Commission, and the city West Des Moines Chamber is involved, and so many individuals that are involved in planning our Dr. Martin Luther King activity next year. It's going to be virtual, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to give kudos to Catherine for being a representative from the chambers on this event as well, because it is all about West Des Moines, and we're going to have some awards. I won't go into tons of details there, but we will be giving out several awards and possible scholarship or whatnot for students. But it's going to be memorable. It'll be virtual, but we're not going to miss this opportunity. There'll be an opportunity, Mayor, for a proclamation, so we'll make sure we get that on your schedule if we haven't already. Certainly want you to be involved in that. So excited to be a part of that planning committee. We had a meeting just before City Council tonight and really have some great minds pulling together on that. I also am the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and we had a meeting on Friday. Councilman Trimble was at that meeting. It was a short meeting, but yet I want to thank Chief Lou for his COVID update. As you all know, we get these updates on a weekly basis about COVID, and it is really quite insightful to really hear what's happening at the hospital level and the folks that are on the front line. I say thank you to all of the healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, physicians, all those folks that are working diligently, putting their own health at risk to make sure that they save lives. So I know that Councilman McKinley talked about COVID and others' involvement. I'd like to augment his report by saying I do everything that I can as well privately and publicly to talk about COVID, wearing a mask, participating in press conferences. I know that some people don't feel that's important. I do, and so I'm using my voice as a leader in every way that I can as well to promote this environment of trying to help people stay safe. So every time I have a public venue to do that, I'm going to utilize that opportunity. As a library trustee liaison to the library, I mean, as we all know that because of COVID, they're really on a curbside pickup model, but it doesn't stop the library from being accessible. Lots of circulation still going on via curbside and lots of wonderful programming they're doing virtually to make sure that people are still tapped into the library. So I want to applaud the library staff for all the creativity that they're doing, even in light of this pandemic. And lastly, I want to say that I am proud to be representing the city of West Des Moines at an event called Inspire 2021, where it is put on by the West Des Moines Chamber. Don't know why I was selected to even be a part of this, but excited to be with Suku Radia, Dan Houston, Dr. Deming, Simon Estes, Beth Shelton, and myself to really inspire and get the year kicked off well and offer words of inspiration. And I really appreciate the work that Catherine is doing to lift up voices and inspire others. So pleased to be a representative on that Inspire 2021 panel. So that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great, thanks. Tom?
Yes, several things real quickly. We're pleased to announce today that the Human Rights Campaign gave a score of West Des Moines of 99 out of 100. It's called the Municipal Equality Index, and they rate 500 cities across the country on how they're doing in non-discrimination protections, policies for municipal employees, city services, law enforcement, and the city's leadership in LGBTQ equality. Now, this is really significant because in 2016, our score was 42. So we made a concerted effort to say we want to make a drive for our city to be more inclusive on all levels. And so this is one of them. And led by our Human Resources Department, Jane Dodge, working with the support of the mayor and the council and the city manager's office and others, we're able to get this to 99, and we're very proud of this score. And I think our city being inclusive is a great benefit for all of us and for a place where people want to work and live. Number two is, we've had a street signals at Grand and Scenic Valley that people wondered the entryway to the Raccoon River Park, saying, why do we have those there when they're not working? So it took a long time to get the relationship or get this through with the railroad, but we finally got it connected. They did. We had to work through them, and it's now functioning. So that's finally, and we're glad we got that relationship. And engineering, I want to thank engineering for going that extra effort and working with Iowa Interstate Railroad to get that cleaned up and finished. And then lastly, we received $1.6 million today from the COVID relief fund through this work through the state of Iowa. Those are federal dollars, and we will be using those primarily in public safety and the overtime and all the extra time we had during these last months since March. So that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Congratulations. Item 4 is the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull any item off the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull 4U.
Great, thank you, because I'd like to read that, and then we have a recognition of Sanjita as the chair. So,
Correct.
4P.
4P. Okay,
If nobody else has any they want to pull, I would just simply move the remainder.
Second.
all right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All those items are approved. 4P, Kevin, resolution to approve, initiate development agreement to Axiom LLC.
I'm just not in favor of this, so I'm not going to be voting for it. So somebody else can move it if they want.
Okay, just, okay.
4P,
Hold on one second, please. Four P, I would move approval of 4P.
is there a second? Second, any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? That item passes 4-1. Item 4U is a proclamation that we've been doing annually for the Human Rights Day of December 10th, which I'd like to read. I believe most, if not all, the members, the commissioners on that are listening to this meeting tonight. And then I've also got special recognition for Sanjita Pradhan as our prior chair, who is retiring off that commission. So first, with respect to the Human Rights Proclamation, it says, whereas on Human Rights Day, Thursday, December 10th, 2020, we celebrate the founding ideals of our nation, which emphasize the importance of protecting human liberty through our great country. Whereas as Iowans, we cherish the value of free speech, equality, and religious freedom, and we stand in unity against injustice, inequity, and tyranny. Whereas the citizens of West Des Moines affirm that everyone has the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and all are equal before the law, and all are entitled without discrimination to equal protection of the law, regardless of age, race, color, religion, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, national origin, disability, or veteran status. Whereas we believe peace and justice prevail when people are free to speak, assemble and worship, when their rights are protected, and when governments are accountable to their citizens. These foundations of freedom are guaranteed for Americans in the Bill of Rights of our Constitution. Whereas on December 10, 2020, Human Rights Day, we celebrate the ideals of our founders and reaffirm the belief that freedom is the right of all mankind. Whereas the citizens of West Des Moines recognize a special responsibility to advance the claims of the oppressed, to reaffirm the rights of life and liberty as fundamental rights upon which all others are based, and to safeguard the rights of freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. As we are free, we must speak up for those who are not. Therefore, I, Stephen K. Gare, Mayor of the City of West Des Moines, do hereby proclaim December 10, 2020 as Human Rights Day. We call upon all citizens of West Des Moines to be respectful of the rights of others and appreciate the diversity of all residents and visitors in the City of West Des Moines. And I think with what Tom mentioned tonight, to get a score of 99 out of 100 on that index, in fairness to us in 2016, when we first got it, we didn't even know what the evaluation criteria were or not. And obviously, we took that as a priority to make sure that we approved upon that. I think the studies we've done, the additional staff we're hiring, our Human Rights Commission, the diversity that we're getting on our boards and commissions. We were one of the first cities to gender balance our boards and commissions. I feel like we're not perfect, but we're doing a lot to try to make sure that everyone feels welcome in this community, they're treated fairly. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, at least from independent people looking at what we're doing. We're going to continue to strive to improve upon that. So I'm really excited about where we are. I'm excited about the resources and commitments we're going to put forth going forward. So with that, I'd appreciate a motion and a second on the proclamation. I know Ryan has an original that he'll share with the Human Rights Commission, and then happy to entertain any additional comments from the council before we recognize Sanjita.
Approval.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the proclamation's approved. Comments?
I'd just like to echo what you've said, Mr. Mayor, that that there is a lot of work that is being done citywide. It takes a lot of effort to move the needle. It takes the fortitude that I think is here in West Des Moines to do that. I think Tom will acknowledge that we have a very robust Human Rights Commission, and Human Resources as a liaison, or at least they attend many of the meetings. I think our attention to really trying to make sure that we have a lens put forth that ask ourselves, is this a welcoming city? I think we have to challenge ourselves. I think we have to get uncomfortable from time to time and recognize that's what it takes. So I'm pleased with the direction that we're going. Can't rest on our laurels where it's a journey, not a destination. And we've got to celebrate points along the journey where we can enjoy our success.
I would just add to the comments by saying, Mayor, thinking back to 2016 when we got that horrible score on the LGBTQ scorecard, I mean, that was really upsetting. I think it was upsetting to all of us. And we made it a point, to talk to Human Resources and ask them why we scored so low and work on that to make sure that we got that score up as high as we possibly could. So I'm extremely proud sitting here today that we got a 99 on that scorecard, on that report card. And I'm extremely proud at, all of the efforts, as you've mentioned, Mayor, that we've been undertaking to make sure that we are as welcoming of a community as we can possibly be. One of the items in my report that I forgot to mention in F&A is that we actually went over the job responsibilities and duties of the DE&I director's position that's going to be moving forward. And we look at that as just a great position to come on and to work to bring everybody together as we move forward and learn and just become better together. So I'm very proud at everything that we've done. And, Renee, like you said, it's a work in progress. We need to keep working towards it and be very conscious of it and everything that we're doing and how some of the things that we do affect different people, and make sure that we're being as inclusive and welcoming as we possibly can, because that's who we are as a city, and I'm proud to represent this city. I'm proud to serve with all of you, and proud at the efforts that we've undertaken to this point. So, and I really do appreciate too the Human Rights Commission that we have. These are a group of great individuals who are very passionate and very proactive, and they're working really hard and keeping us moving forward. And I just appreciate all the work that they've done and that they're going to continue to do going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, to add really quickly to what Councilwoman Hardman and Councilman Tremble said. I work with young people every single day, and certainly the day-to-day services of our city are super important, and we do a phenomenal job of delivering them. But ultimately, what I see from students and young people when they think about where they want to live long-term, it's going to be a place that is welcoming to all. It's going to be a place that they can call home, that everybody can call home. And so hearing these things and the work we've done and the journey that we're continually on, it gives me great hope that the city of West Des Moines is going to continue to be a place where people want to live. So thank you for all the work you've done.
Great. All right. With that, I'd like to make a special recognition of Sanjita Pradhan, who is retiring as the chair of the West Des Moines Human Rights Commission. Sanjita served 2 terms from 2014 to 2020 on the commission. The last 3 of them, she has served as the chairperson. And she's just a couple of highlights that she's helped drive and support the commission. 1, we increased the size of the commission from 5 members to 7. They completed a strategic plan shared with key community stakeholders and has begun the progress of implementing that strategic plan. Supported multiple sponsorships and collaborations with local organizations like Taste of the Junction, Historic Valley Junction, and Refugee Alliance of Central Iowa that host World Refugee Day right here in the city of West Des Moines every year. The commission hosted last year's first Martin Luther King Day celebration and is currently, as Renee mentioned, planning the upcoming 2021 celebration of the events. Sanjita also has supported the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and along with being a resource whenever called upon, we valued her steadfast leadership and commitment to our city and can't thank her enough for her service on the commission. Sanjita, we have a formal recognition. I don't know if you're watching on TV, but we have it here framed. We will leave it with City Manager Haddon so that you can make arrangements to pick it up, and we hope that you would display it proudly. But we do thank you very much for your service to the City of West Des Moines. A lot of these initiatives have begun under your leadership, and we'll see them through, so thank you very much.
Mayor, if I could just add just one other comment too, is that I as the liaison to the Human Rights Commission, I do want to also thank Sanjita for stepping up to be chair. It's not an easy task. There's lots of balls to keep in the air and juggle in the air, and lots of really strong, passionate personalities that we all want to make sure they're heard and their voices are there to make a difference. And so I appreciate the work that Sanjita has done. I appreciate that she raised her hand to lead and has done it with grace and with the commitment of trying to move the needle on diversity and inclusion for all people and all races, and moving us just 1 or 2 or 3 steps down this journey that we're on. Thank you, Sanjita.
All right, thank you, Renee. Item 5 is old business, 3 items tonight. 5A, amendment to City Code Title 5, Police Regulations, and Title 9, Zoning, modify regulations pertaining to keeping of animals. This is city initiated. This is an ordinance for the second, third reading. Final adoption, there are no changes from the first reading.
Move consideration of the second reading.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the City of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019, Title 5, Police Regulations, Chapter 3, Animal Control, and Title 9, Zoning pertaining to the keeping of animals.
Move approval of the second reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right,
Move waiving the third and adopting final form.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That ordinance is approved. Item 5B, amendment to City Code Title 10, Subdivision Regulations, Chapter 2, Plats and Procedures, extend the time a preliminary plat approval is valid, city initiated. This is also an ordinance for the second, third reading, final adoption. There are no changes from the first reading.
Move consideration of second reading.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the City of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title 10 Subdivision Regulations, Chapter 2, Plats and Procedures to modify the time allowed between preliminary plat and final plat approvals.
Move approval of the second reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right,
Move waiver of the third reading and adopt in final form.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that ordinance is approved. Item 5C, Cedar Ridge Plat 3, southwest corner of Coach Light Drive and South 91st Street, subdivide property into 26 single-family lots, 2 outlots, and 1 street lot. Chase Holdings LLC. It's a resolution for reapproval of the preliminary plat, and there are no outstanding issues.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that preliminary plat is reapproved. Item 6 is public hearings. And when I ask for public comment, if anyone's on the phone and want to speak, make sure that you hit star 6 to unmute yourself. So item 6A, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider Cascade Apartments, southwest corner of Cascade Avenue and South 81st Street, amend the comprehensive plan land use map to designate high-density residential and consistency zone the property to residential high density initiated by SM Cascades LLC and SM Heritage Hills LLC. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 17th, 2020 in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 6 yes, 1 was absent, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the comp plan amendment and consistency zoning.
Okay, now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on item 6A. Okay, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. The first item is a resolution to approve the comprehensive plan amendment.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Comp plan amendments approved. Item 2 is the ordinance for the first reading.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments on the ordinance? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
5 yes, an ordinance amending the official zoning map in the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title IX zoning, Chapter 4 zoning districts and map.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the first reading is approved. Item 6B, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider amendment to City Code Title IX zoning, Chapter 3 general zoning provisions, define exceptions to building height regulations for portions of the building not intended for occupancy, initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 18th, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 6 yes, 1 was absent, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the ordinance amendment.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the City Council on item 6B. Okay, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Again, this is an ordinance for the first reading, and it came through the Development and Planning Council Committee, and we appreciate that the staff reaching out to the design professionals in the city to get their comments on this as well. It's always great to actually get comments back from people that are directly affected by some of these changes, so they all seem to be very supportive of what we're doing here.
I'd move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ryan?
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title IX zoning, Chapter 3 general zoning provisions to allow for limited exceptions to building height regulations.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the first reading's approved. Item 6C, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider acceptance of dedication of property interest and conveyance of electric transmission line easement, overhead and underground electric easement, and gas easement to Mid-American Energy Company, South 8th Street improvements, initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
December 2nd, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the City Council on item 6C. Okay, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. We have 2 resolutions which we can take together.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those resolutions are approved. Item 6D, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider the 2020 sanitary sewer rehabilitation program initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 27th, 2020, in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
All right, now would be the time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the City Council on item 6D. Okay, hearing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Again, we have 2 resolutions and a motion which we can take together. I know the lowest bid was about 20% higher than what we estimated, but the staff's given an explanation on why they don't believe if we were to rebid this project that it would result in any lowering of the price.
It looks like it was a more difficult project than it originally looked to be, and the restoration was going to be somewhat significant.
I do have a question, Mayor, if that's all right. And I know, Brian, you're listed here. I guess what I'm curious about is there harm in waiting? I should say harm in rebidding. If we rebid, are we kind of slowing something up? Or can you help me understand if there's harm in waiting until the spring as referenced here?
Sure thing. Brian Hemestead, city engineer. The only thing with waiting is you don't know if you're going to get any better bids, but it's not going to hurt anything if we do wait. So it's really the types of things that are wrong with the pipes and the manholes are things that need to be taken care of, but they're preventative. So it's not like there's something catastrophic happening out there. So, but you know, it's really, you know, up to you guys on whether or not you want to go ahead and award.
Do you, I mean, given your, you know, background and experience in this sort of stuff over time, do you have any sense whatsoever as to the likelihood that prices could go down or that prices actually may go up?
My personal opinion, just from what I've heard from contractors and others in the department, is we'll probably have similar bidding in the spring if we were to wait, or if we wait until fall of next year. You may see some discount if you kind of watch to see if there's maybe less work going on at this particular time, but this is about as good of a time in that respect to get work. And a lot of it, I think, comes from just the difficulty to get into this site. And I think I mentioned to Councilman Hudson in an email earlier that the consultant might have just been a little bit lulled by how easy these projects are and easy the access is on a consistent basis. And this one, it may have just kind of caught him off guard, and we just came in a little high, so.
And there's no guarantees, but I guess based on my experience, typically when you bid stuff in the fall, you think you get better prices because the contractors don't have all their work committed for the next year. So a lot of times you get better bids because they're not sure how much work they're going to get. Whereas if you bid it during the year and they're already full, they're going to give you a higher bid. So again, no guarantees, but the general rule is if you bid it in the fall, you should be getting better prices.
Yeah, and the other comment we did have is with the difference in the council meetings where we have 2 a month now versus every other week, we had 3 weeks between order construction and bidding, which is a little bit shorter than normal. And one of the contractors did tell us that there was 2 holidays in between. One was Thanksgiving and the other one was deer season. So they wanted to let us know that you know, maybe we next time and at this time of year that we rethink that and allow that a little bit longer, maybe go 5 weeks if it's a you know, 5 Monday month. So that's what I've heard.
So this isn't a do or die. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing, really. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like the project's not going to get any easier, and the engineering estimate was maybe off because of some of the difficulties of the project, the restoration job that needed to be done. We could save some money, but we don't know.
Right, and saving Tim a trip up here, we discussed this with Tim, and he's comfortable with the funding mechanism. The sewer fund is one of our more healthy funds, so he's comfortable with that. He can nod his head if I'm right or wrong, so.
Brian, how many, in the past, do you know how many bids we've gotten on this? I mean, you talked about two holidays, deer and Thanksgiving. So if we would not do it tonight, rebid it, you think we're still going to get the same 3 bids, or historically, what do we typically get?
We typically don't get a lot of bids. There's not a lot of contractors and locally that do it. So yeah, this is pretty typical. of
So
what
it's
we
not
see.
going to gain us anything.
I don't think it's going to gain us much. I think maybe HydroClean, they were really, really high. We had a discussion with them. They may have misinterpreted some of the stuff in the plans, and they were a little embarrassed by that. So they may come down, but
They're not
they
going to
didn't
come down
indicate to
enough
us that
to
right,
be a low bidder.
right.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's helpful. I appreciate it, Brian.
You're welcome.
I read that and I didn't have a chance to touch base earlier, so thank you. And Mayor, appreciate your perspective on it as well.
So we can take both resolutions in a motion together if someone wants to move them.
I'll move.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, those items are approved. New business, item 7A, Village on Jordan Creek, southwest corner of Jordan Creek Parkway and Ashworth Road. Approval of a preliminary plat to create 2 lots, 2 outlots, and 1 street lot. Checkmate LLC. This is a resolution to approve the preliminary plat, and there are no outstanding issues.
Move approval of preliminary plat.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, sure. This is certainly something that I've been interested in for the last several months, and I just wanted to share with the council that between the developer and the future builders and all the neighbors, we've had a really, really good dialogue, and I think that we're going to be able to come up with a solution that really makes a lot of sense and that can please all parties. I mean, they're going to be able to keep that tree line, it looks like, and that's going to make a giant difference for all those residents who really, really want to keep that tree line. So I'm really, really pleased that all parties have been working hard to ensure that the residents who are currently there on Aspen and 76th Street can have their neighborhood maintained as much as it possibly can be under current conditions. So I just wanted to thank everyone for working together on these things. Makes a big difference.
Thanks, Greg. We know you put a lot of time into this as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the preliminary plat, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the preliminary plat is approved. Item 7B, issuance of $16,240,000 of general obligation urban renewal bonds, Series 2021A. City initiated. The first item is a motion to receive and file the report of bids. I don't know, Tim, you want to share any insights? I didn't see anybody from PFM here.
Tim Stiles, Finance Director. I believe Suzanne is on the line, and she'd be willing to spend a couple minutes and go through the bids that we received today and give you guys an update before you act on the item. I think she's on.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, so yeah, we went to market this morning. First and foremost, Moody's did affirm the city's AAA rating. That's always super exciting to hear. That is the top rating available to a city by Moody's Investor Service. And this is the final phase of funding, I guess, for the Recplex project. Today we received 7 bids from over 34 different firms. These were taxable bonds. So remember, normally we're coming with tax exempt. These are taxable bonds, which means there's no tax exemption for the folks that buy these and invest in the city's bonds. But still received excellent rates today. I am so pleased to report that the true interest cost range from all 7 bids, 1.59% to 2.21%. So a bigger spread between the first and the last place bid than we probably normally would see. But an excellent winning bid today from Robert W. Baird out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they are the firm that usually has that large syndicate. They had 28 members in their selling group today, and they really wanted the city's bonds. They bid 12 basis points, 0.12% lower than the second place bidder today. So that's real money and real savings for the city, and that just affirms the good work that's being done at the city. Pricing today, just 46 basis points over the AAA tax exempt scale. And I can tell you that not very long ago, AA range issuers were pricing tax exempt at 46 basis points over the scale. So very, very pleased. This is over 1% under PFM's initial estimates for what we were budgeting for. And that means that annual debt service costs are almost $100,000 or more less than our initial estimates.
And these are 20-year bonds, aren't they?
20-year bonds, yes, 20-year bonds.
Yeah, 20-year taxable bonds at that rate are really pretty incredible.
I can't take credit for it, but the market couldn't have been in a better spot today.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
Suzanne, is that, you say over $100,000 in savings over 20 years, or, we're talking over $2 million?
Per year in debt service costs versus our initial estimate.
So that's, in excess of $2 million as compared to the initial estimate. That's fantastic.
Helps with a couple of our change orders, Tom.
Yeah. And it helps with that last bid that we just approved for, that was a little bit higher.
Yeah,
There you go,
that's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Well, I mean, we never want to underestimate the quality of being a AAA rated city. And the last time we looked, there was maybe 100 cities in the United States. And when I Google cities, there's over 19,000. And I continue every chance I get to share city information. You guys heard it here recently to the chambers. How much money? I mean, it's over $10 million we've saved refinancing. And our cost of capital to be able to make investments in our community is as cheap, it seems like, as anywhere in the United States.
That is a true statement, Mayor.
Yeah. And it's a lot more fun to spend your capital actually building things than paying off the debt service.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, well, Suzanne, thanks a lot for your help.
Yes.
You keep making records. We want you to keep breaking them.
I'll do what I can.
Okay, so the first item is I need a motion to receive and file the reported bids that she just shared with us.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and then we need a resolution to authorize the approval of the loan agreement, providing for the sale and issuance of the bonds and providing for the levy of the taxes
So
to
moved.
pay said the bonds.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. Item 8, there are no items to receive, file, and/or refer. Item 9, we'll start other matters, 9A, with a Des Moines Area Regional Transit Authority update.
Well, we'll have to start with Shane because Elizabeth's still on
Is it? Okay.
Bondurant council meeting
And
upstairs.
if I can just go before Shane, I've got 4 really quick things that I was slow on the uptake and didn't get to say, and I've been really long-winded tonight, so I might as well just finish it off, okay?
So we'll take you out of
go
order.
ahead.
Russ.
Can't wait.
Four things I want to bring up that I didn't get to say. Number one, staff on 6B, really appreciate staff, being flexible and looking at where there's problems and things that need to be solved and going and doing that. Our staff regularly does that, and I really appreciate that. And then also the contact tracing that Councilman McKinney brought up. He's been working really hard to see if we could try to do a pilot project here for contact tracing. We've had, I don't know, two or three different calls and really trying to make that a reality. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get it done, but we've been working really hard on that, and he's been leading the way, and I really appreciate that. Anything we can do to try to keep our citizens more safe, we need to do. And then really kind of a question, I guess, for Ryan. I had somebody, a constituent, that wanted to join the meeting and wanted to see the meeting, but was only able to call in. I guess I was thinking that people could join via video, but I guess that's only people that are presenting and whatnot. Does everybody else have to call in?
Right, yeah, we've kept it kind of closed, the general public only having access to the call-in number, because if someone has access to the virtual Teams meeting, they would have permissions to do some things that we wouldn't want them to do.
Okay, so it's a security type thing. but
Exactly.
I wish we had an ability to have people join that way, but.
I think you can stream this live on YouTube, I think, can't you?
Yeah, we are streaming it live on YouTube as well. That is
Oh,
correct.
okay. I don't think she was aware of that. And then the last thing that I'd be remiss if I didn't say, just want to congratulate and thank Brian Rickard for his service on the Waterworks Board. He served for, I think it was
12 years.
12 years. 12 years.
6-year terms.
6-year terms. He served 12 years. I think at least six of those chair.
I
was
think
chair
the
for-
last 3, maybe?
Last 3 were chair. He's done a lot of heavy lifting. He served on that board for 12 years and a long time, and really appreciate everything that he did. Takes a lot to serve, a lot of commitment, time away from family, and just want to thank him for that too.
Yeah, and Tom and I were on some email exchanges thanking Brian
Yeah.
for his service.
That's a long time to serve on the Waterworks Board.
Those are the
so-
longest, water board for whatever state law has 6-year terms, and planning and zoning
Right.
are 5. Most of them are 4. Human rights was 3, so they kind of bounce around, but the water board ones are the longest. Okay, and so we want to, I guess, start with 9B, Mid-American Energy Rescue Class Programming update. Sorry about that. So Shane will let you follow Russ.
He may have another one.
You're not done.
He said he
I'll
was.
think of something else.
He said it. No, he said he was done. I heard it.
Your famous last words.
Where's the gong?
Good thing the city attorney's in front of you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and members of the council and City Manager Han. Thank you for having me. My name is Shane Ratcliffe. I'm the General Manager of the Recplex. So excited to give you an update on the project. I know I've been here for just over a year and I haven't been in front of you, so I can imagine a lot has changed and you're all very excited to see what's happening down there at 6,500 grand and we're excited to give you the updates. So let's start and talk about the space again a little bit so everyone's aware of it. The Recplex is just about 300,000 square feet of, designed for youth sports, events, and recreation. We are also setting it up to hold conventions, concerts, community events, business gatherings, whatnot. The overall site, it's about 66 acres of land. You can see from this rendering, we've got 3 outdoor artificial turf fields on the west side of the property. There is potential for a phase 2 for another 2 fields down on the property that we have set aside for it. We will have lighting for all those outdoor fields. Wireless internet, the entire facility as well as the outdoor fields are going to have wireless internet. And this is something that I know some of you sitting on the F&A committee, we've really worked on this to make sure that wireless internet can sometimes be an afterthought, and we made sure that it was something that is out there. So anyone out on the paths, anyone coming by will have it. We've got on-site parking for about 1,000 vehicles, and we're gonna have bike paths and pedestrian areas all tied in, not only to Grand, but in the longer term to the regional trail system. Overall, here you can kind of see a summary of the indoor of the space. On the left is the facility as a whole. You can see the kind of where the red arrow is, that's right where you walk in. And we've got a 12,000 square foot commons area right there. We've got our come and go community rooms. The ice arenas are straight in and off to the left. And then you have on the right side is the Hy-Vee Fieldhouse. We've got 3 hardwood courts right in the front, the indoor turf area, and then another 4th court, some pickleball and batting cages in that. On the upper left in the orange, we have overlook room and Courage League Sports, locker rooms a little down from there, and then our esports center on the bottom, which is basically the northwest corner of the commons area. And then out to on the right here, you see the outdoor fields. You can see some of the paths and some of the connections that tie it all together. So this is just kind of an overview of the whole site. Once we walk inside, we've got the Hy-Vee Fieldhouse, and that's about 150,000 square feet of recreational space. We have 4 dedicated basketball courts that are also lined to be 8 volleyball courts. We have 3 pickleball courts, 4 batting cages, a full-size indoor turf field, scoreboard, sound system. It's set up for everything in there. When we look at the turf area as a whole, we've got a full clearance of 56 feet. So that, we can play anything in there from football, baseball, soccer, you name it. It is dividable where those 2 black lines are divider curtains that can come down, divided into thirds. It's about 70,000 square feet of open space, and we've been in discussions with everyone, soccer, football, lacrosse, indoor play, indoor walking, events like that. In the far corner of this picture, that's where the batting cages are, is in that back corner, and then the pickleball is right in the middle, and then the 4th court is right there. This is standing up on the mezzanine of the 2nd level overlooking, so kind of just give you a view of what it's going to be. You can see the scoreboards on the far wall as well as the natural light coming in. When we get into the main arena, this is a showpiece right here. We've got seating, fixed seating for 1,500 people. And those are full chairs with seat backs, cup holders, not just aluminum benches. That's nice premier seating. This is also designed for non-ice events. Right now, we're still learning the skating community and the skating needs. We're looking that we'll probably have ice in there from around August, September until March. But in the other times, this is designed for special events. When the ice comes out, the glass comes down, we've got parts of the dashboards that come out, and we can set it up for a 20,000 square foot convention space. We can seat 2,400 people for a concert. We have extra rigging installed, that's on the opposite end of this picture, but for all the light bars, sound bars, it can all be designed, set up for that. We'll have anchors in the floor for a circus. We've been in talks with them potentially coming out. So we have a lot of opportunities for this space down the road. And meeting spaces, again, this can be, everyone needs meeting. There's always times that we need it, especially in the public endeavor. So we have different levels. We have the come and go community rooms where we've got about 3,300 square feet that can be divided up with partitions. The overlook room, again, a little smaller, but it's on the 2nd floor on the south end. It overlooks the lake on the one side, and then the 4th court and the pickleball area on the inside. And then we have the activities room, which is just a smaller 1,100 square feet. We figure birthday parties, game film, team dinners, all that stuff. So we're trying to make sure that we're set up for whatever you need, whether it be the user groups or just the general community. Business gatherings, wedding showers, bridal showers, conventions. The esports center, this is something that's really unique. It's about 3,500 square feet, and esports, for those who don't know, it's basically video games, but it's the fastest growing sport in the world right now. We're going to have 30 gaming PCs, as you can see on the right side of this picture, is those individual gaming PCs, 6 consoles. So where those chairs, those couches are, there will be like a 40-inch TV, and that's Xbox, PlayStation. So this is designed for both recreational and high-level gamers. You can come in and drop in and rent for an hour. You can rent the whole thing. You can have a company outing. But we also have this set up that we can run park and rec programs. It could be learn to Photoshop, learn to Excel, whatever it is. I mean, these PCs can handle it all. So we're setting it up for not only the gaming, but also for the general use for anyone in the community. And that's just what we're starting with, right? Des Moines University, as most of you know, they're building their campus right down the street from us, but they're going to have a 5,000 square foot physical therapy center right adjacent to our commons. So they're going to provide treatment planning and rehabilitation services out of this facility. It will be open to the public. Now, it's not like an urgent care. If you roll your ankle, it's not an urgent care, but you roll your ankle, you get diagnosed, that's where you can go to rehab, in this center. And then we're also going to be working with them for our tournaments to be our tournament provider for athletic therapy and whatnot. Courage League Sports, we're excited about this. So Courage League Sports is adaptive recreation, and they're going to have a 2,400 square foot home right down off of that fourth court. And they'll be providing adaptive sports programming for children and adults. And we set up that fourth court. We have the 3 hardwood courts in the front, but this court is a poured-in-place rubber floor. So that way, in case they want to expand, their wheelchairs can come out there. They won't damage the hardwood. Again, we're designing the space for flexibility so we can maximize the use. And Melissa's been great to work with. She'll have an office on the upper level and have planned program out there on a regular basis. And again, let's start with the user groups. We've been talking to everyone under the sun. Obviously, the Des Moines Youth Hockey Association, hockey and skating was a driving force of this. So, we've been in talks with the hockey associations. There's 3 figure skating clubs in town, curling, broomball. Everyone is excited and they're lining up to get in here. And we know that's a need in this area. As you know, the skating has really struggled and to grow in this metro. And someone coming from Minnesota, and based on the number of people in this area, the metropolitan area, we have plenty to do, but this is the great opportunity for us. So we've been in discussion with many groups. The broomball at Drake University is looking at getting a men's club team going again, some hockey camps. We've been in discussions with the Wild as well as the Iowa State games. We're already set up to host the Iowa State games. We'll be hosting the National State games. We're supposed to be in 21. Everything got basically pushed out a year. So the regionals that were supposed to be in our qualifiers in 20 have now been moved to 21. So we're set up to host the Iowa State games, which is a national, in July of 22. So we're already on the map for that. Same as turf. Another one of the driving forces behind this facility was the turf needs. The soccer clubs between the West Des Moines Club, Sporting Iowa, Iowa Soccer Association, we've been in discussions with all of them. We've got our local lacrosse club, youth football. We're in talks also with the Iowa Phoenix, the women's professional team, the girls softball. Drake University is looking to come out here for practices and possibly some games, as well as the Menace/Pro Iowa. They're trying to get a new stadium downtown. They don't know if it's going to have a training center yet. We're right on their short list for possibility of options once, depending on what they figure out there. So other than turf and the other user groups, we also are working with All Iowa Tech Basketball. They're an elite basketball program out of Ames. They're going to be bringing some of their league play down here weeknights, as well as 20 to 26 weekend tournaments that they'll be bringing to this. The Des Moines Pickleball Club, we're looking at hosting the USA Volleyball Iowa Regionals in April is our goal for coming up here, and then that'll be a long-term relationship. We've got the fencing club, we've got a group looking to youth basketball, all sorts of user groups. Two on here, I just want to highlight the Grandview University men's volleyball. We're in final selection to host the 2022 and 2023 national championship. So we had the site selection committee was out here a couple weeks ago, and we know we're on their short list. So that would be a really good thing to get, and that would be in April of 22 and 23. And just another one of these, this Iowa Homeschool Association. They're going to be coming in this summer, renting 80,000 square feet of dry floor space for their annual convention. So they're going to have the main floor, the gymnasium, all the meeting rooms, and a third of the turf we're covering to put the vendor show. So again, we're setting this place up to be flexible. Working with Hy-Vee and Ellen Davis over at the store over here. She's their sports nutritionist. So whether it's a programming coming into summer or summer camps, whatnot. So DMU, just all sorts of things going on for user groups. And then the question is, what are we doing for the community? We've got plenty of opportunities, drop-in programs of every sport that you can imagine, open walking time. We know during the winter months it's colder. You walk 5 times around that indoor field house, and it's a mile. So we've got that set up. So working on different walking programs, but at the same time, you get 70,000 square feet that can be open playtime for toddlers. So a mom can bring their kids and they can play, kick the ball around, whatever they want to do in the middle. We also will be starting a new Learn to Skate program thanks to Viridian Credit Union. They've donated to help us get 600 brand new pairs of rental skates to help grow that skating community, which we know is very important. And we're also working on summer kids academies of every, summer, multiple sports camps as well as dedicated sports camps, parents' night out, non-school days. The list is endless. Another special opportunity that we've had is the Green State Credit Union. They sponsored the main turf there in the field house, but they also put some money aside for a scholarship fund. And so we're going to have the family fun night several times a year where it's going to be open to the public. Anyone come in, it's free of charge. And we're also working with some of our other sponsors to add more events like this through our scholarship fund. And then one of the other big questions that comes up is how is COVID affecting this? And how, as we've been working through these user groups, that, 2 years ago, they were all excited. And then over the last 9 months, it's kind of been, okay, a lot of these youth associations have struggled. So how is this going to affect us? Well, do we have a plan? Yep, I've got probably 7 of them written in pencil sitting in my office, depending on where we are, right? We don't know where it's going to be when we open up. Our opening date has been in limbo a little bit throughout this whole thing, so we're not sure where we're going to be, but we know we have different levels. So whether it's limited capacity, mask, temperature checks, we'll be ready when that time comes. And we, again, Wells Fargo, Iowa Event Center, they're working. They're making it work. They are open in different capacities, and same as Minnesota. They've got 180 ice rinks up there, 160 of them are municipally ran. So to run a facility, a municipal facility safely during COVID, it can be done. We'll be ready. We'll work with local EMS here at the city and the local guidelines. But the short answer is, yep, we've got a plan, several of them, but we'll be ready to go wherever we're at when we do open. So the next question is, where are we? How is it coming? So here's the current state of the facility. In that upper left, that's actually the main commons area where the plumbing is. You can see there's a lot of underground work in this facility. All the plumbing, everything has to be done before the floors can be poured. So that upper one is the commons area, or the bathrooms, and where the windows are is actually the activities room. The middle picture, that's where the arena support space is. So that's where a lot of the masonry walls have to go, is in where the locker rooms are and the restrooms, so that you can see the masons are in there. And that upper right, this picture is standing in the batting cage area. So this is looking back across the field, and you can see where that field house goes, how big it is and how massive that site is. So the crews are working on that. Some of these spaces aren't that bad though, because this really, other than a coat of paint, you put the turf down, it's ready to go. There's not drywall, it's not 1,000 hotel rooms that have to be finished, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And on the outside, you can see they're making progress. Wherever you see that plastic wrap, they're basically enclosing the buildings and things start getting heat in there. The windows, all those plastic areas will be windows like this in storefronts, so they got to get it enclosed before this stuff is scheduled in January-ish to be coming. So that's kind of where we're at right now. You can see this is the drone that went out just last week. You can see the 3 outdoor turf fields are finished, and the roofs are all done. It's just buttoning up some of the areas. And when you compare it to the rendering, it's coming right on board. This is kind of a little older one, but it shows a cutaway of how the facility is going to lay out when it's complete. So with that, I'll just give you a quick little rendering. And so again, I just want to thank you all for all your support through all this, because it's been, as you know, the project has grown, but we've expanded and we've taken that and tried to make sure that we're adapting it to be ready for when we do open back up in full capacity, right? We know the world's going to come back, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, and this facility is designed for it. As I can see, this could be a great spring afternoon where we're full with the indoor areas, the outdoor areas. We're set and ready to go. So I guess with any of that, I will stand for any questions that you might have on the project.
Shane, when do you think that we'll be ready to open?
Well, we're hoping for April 1, May 1 right now is what we're looking at. We're trying to be realistic, right? We've had some, not really setbacks, but we've changed architects, as you know, and with every change, every time there's a question of how this meets up with this, it's a process to make sure it's done right and make sure it's done at the best cost. So those have been some delays, as well as the just COVID in general, right? We've had, every time, once a week, we have a call and okay, well, one of the electricians tested positive, so then they're down for 7 to 10 days, or someone get pulled off for another. So COVID has affected it, but that's the short answer. My goal is April 1. It's somewhere between April and May 1.
So the quick question piggybacking on top of that is, one of my biggest worries right now is the youth hockey, because they don't really have a facility. I think that's the impression I'm getting. I've got some hockey dads that are contacting me pretty regularly, wondering what's going on with that. And was supposed to be January, then we kind of pushed that back to March, but we're going to try to work with them. Is there anything we can do to work with them? Is the ice going to be done so we can get them in there to practice at least, or?
And that we really tried. Both my boys play travel hockey. So I got 6 and 8-year-old. I work with them and I go to their board meetings regular, so I get it. It's it's been a blessing that the NHL is shut down because the Iowa Wild are not needed right now and they're not skating. So right now, there's not the demand because we've been able to get the ice down at Wells Fargo. The question is, when does that change, right? When does the Wild start? When can they not get ice? And we don't know, we can't control Wells Fargo, but they have basically stepped in and served that role for right now. And right now, like the last 3 weeks, we're shut down completely. As an association, we're skating privately, but an association. So,
Okay.
but the short answer of that, we won't be ready. We won't, they can't paint until the floor is done, and they will not have that rink floor done until, it's not gonna be Feb 1. We were hoping for Feb 1 was our goal, it's gonna be April before that building, by the time all the bleachers are built, and then the rubber flooring goes in, and then the painting, it has to be, we're at this point where we need to do it right. Otherwise, if we're trying to rush through paint, it's gonna be flaking off by August.
Right. Now, you guys are doing this whole thing right. We need to keep doing it that way. But then what about, we were in talks with the Iowa Wild, the Iowa Wolves. I thought at one point in time, they were going to potentially, the Wolves were going to possibly have a practice court here. Are those talks still going on? Are we?
The Wolves, they have a very good deal where they're at right now. And so we researched that and went through it. They're also a professional sports team, right? So they wanted a lot. And for us to give that from a community facility would be irresponsible for the amount of time that they wanted, versus what we would get out of it. We're still in talks with the Wild. We have a spot set up for the Wild. Dealing with the problem with the Wild right now, operation we haven't figured out. NHL wants a lot of insurance. There's just a lot of paperwork. So we're working through that with the Wild right now, but we are ready for that. But again, they're a professional sports club owned by millionaires, so they're going to ask for everything, and we're working through it. But operationally, we've got it figured out. But yeah, so we are still having those discussions.
And I'm disappointed because I thought we reached out to the Bucks, and then, all of a sudden,
Yeah, I don't think we're big enough for the Bucks. We're not. They would need close to 3,000 seats or more, and they need to own it themselves and get all the food and beverage. That's how those groups make money.
I think what we discovered through this process, sorry, Renee. What we discovered through this process is that, as Shane's saying, that the demands of these, like when we were talking about the Wolves and going through the conversations, going, well, if we got a guy that wants to shoot hoops, he should be able to come there anytime, and the court's closed for 2 to 4 hours. It's like, okay, yeah, this is public money going into this facility also. So, we have a good relationship with them still. It ended well. And same with the Iowa Wild. I think we'll get there. But if we don't, we're okay. So we have a good relationship with both of those teams. But we have learned on the way what their needs and demands. Iowa Wild's a little easier because they practice during the day, so it wouldn't be such a big deal. But they still, if they come back from a game late at night or something, and they want to practice, So, and the Bucks, we early on, we said, this isn't going to work because they wanted over 3,000, and we weren't going to put that kind of seating. Our biggest one's 1,500 on side. So, and I think that's going to be good for hockey if they get that going. I don't know if they can get four sheets of ice, but we want to grow the sport, and we're going to be up and going sooner.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all that you guys did to do the, economic analysis of this thing. I think we contracted with a group out of, was it Florida or something, to do that and make sure this thing was self-sustaining, which, I really, really appreciate that. All the stuff that's gone into this, everything you guys have thought of, the birthday parties and the different, amenities that are here. And I think, don't the baseball comes down, the batting cages comes down from the ceiling and go
Correct.
back?
They can retract, and that's another,
Retract and go-
75 by 70 area that can be used for a birthday party or a
The
warm-up
video
area.
gaming room and all that stuff that you guys, thank you for all you're doing and thinking through.
I'd like to jump in if I could here. Can you please share with me, are there other naming rights for anything that's out there? Is everything been named that needs to be named, or what are the opportunities for naming rights, which means revenue for us?
That's a great question. So we do have I guess I can just go to it since I'm on here. We have one of the fields left is available to name, as well as let me try to pull this up here. So the third field, you can see on the far right, is still available,
Okay.
as well as the eSports Center, the smaller activities room in the front, as well as the overlook room are all available. The pickleball courts are available, the batting cages are available. So anyone that has a question, you can reach out or just visit our website. therecplex.com is our website, and we've got it listed on there, both our naming opportunities as well as advertising, which we'll be pursuing, just wall banners and whatnot here over the next coming
So
months.
we're actively engaged in trying to seek opportunities where there's an alignment.
Yep, correct. We've got them listed right on our website, and we've been talking with groups regularly.
And then what will it take to manage this place? I know you're the manager, but you can't do everything with here. So what are we talking about for a staffing model for this?
So we've got 5 full-time staff in addition to myself, and then we'll have, 40 to 50 part-time and intermittent staff running this. So we got myself, we've got an operations coordinator, we have a guest services coordinator who will be coming on board here
Okay.
in December, an administrative assistant, and some facility specialists for night and weekend operations.
Okay. Are they part of Park and Rec?
Yeah, we'll all be under Park and Rec and under
Okay,
the city.
all right.
Would these part-time jobs be good for a high school student to have?
Absolutely. High school students and up. We love to get them and train them. And I've been doing facilities like this for years, and it's always great to see the different kids that would never be friends, right, unless they were working together. and it's always a fun endeavor. So we're excited for everyone to come on board.
Shane, in the metro, how many, because we have a pretty big turf field right here, full-size soccer field, basically. How many indoor full-size soccer fields are there in the metro area?
0 that I know of. I haven't found any full-size ones, no.
All right.
There's a smaller one, I think Soccer House, I believe it's called, and so it's a smaller one, but nothing that's going to have the size and the span, the clear span that we're going to have.
Excellent.
Shane, I just want to thank you for everything that you've done to make this reality. Early on, I talked with Tom with a couple of ideas. I came to you with some ideas, and you're 100% willing to listen, see if it'd work, and you did everything you could to make them work. I just want to thank you for that, because this is going to be truly a multi-use facility that we've got out there. And I think most of the recreational facilities out there are geared towards that particular event, whether, the old Bucks Arena, that was hockey, that was it. And you've gone, I hate this phrase, but you've thought out of the box on this as to what can we do with this building when we don't have ice, when we don't have volleyball going on, when we don't have soccer or whatever it might be. So it's phenomenal what you've done, and I want to thank you for your leadership
We're
on this.
excited. We're really excited. Yeah.
I do have, also, thank you. I appreciate it, Shane. It's a big endeavor. This is a game changer for West Des Moines, using a phrase that Russ Trimble likes to use. I was reading something a couple of weeks ago that Grimes, the city of Grimes, is building a plex. Is that,
It's an outdoor sports complex.
Copycats.
okay? What is it?
Copycat.
Oh, no, so
It's
the
like,
Grimes Plex
this
is going to
makes no
be,
sense.
I've read anywhere from 8 to 13 outdoor artificial turf fields. So it's simply just an outdoor, kind of like I think it's County is the park that has all the soccer fields. So no indoor portion with them.
Okay. So no competition, you don't think? I mean, for the outdoor?
We literally, the moment that came out, Sporting Iowa and Vision are both looking at long-term agreements for the outdoor fields. The indoor fields, again, we're turning people away already with the indoor fields. That's our biggest concern with this. Pre-COVID for sure, but it's ramping back up, is that we don't want to open in day one where people are calling and we're saying, sorry, we're booked for a year, right? We're trying to make sure we have space set aside for when people are learning about this and when they are, and again, even with COVID, there are groups, the elite groups, they've had no problem finding the money, but it's the recreational side that we want to make sure we have time set aside for, that when we do open and funds come back available, that we can rent to them. So that's kind of the balancing act that we're at right now, but yeah, the Grimes Plex, don't see any concern with that.
Okay, and my final question, I think, but if I'm like Russ, I might slip in a few more. But I know that Mid-American has been a really major partner with us. Are we keeping them updated on what's going on? I think it's really important to keep a huge partner like them in the loop on what's all going on?
Yeah, they were just out there just a couple weeks ago shooting a
Okay.
commercial,
Great.
using our site for that. And we do regular updates, Facebook Lives on our Facebook page as well as some
Okay.
videos. So we're keeping everyone in the loop to make sure they know how the construction is coming. Obviously, the opening date has been hard because it's been in limbo,
Yeah.
but we've been keeping everyone up to date with site updates.
Okay, thank you.
Can you get Warren Buffett for the ribbon cutting?
There you go.
See what I can do.
Shane, thank you for the presentation, and I'll echo, I won't repeat it all, just echo the comments that my colleagues have shared. I know this is, there's a lot of activities going on, and you're doing this in the middle of a challenging time. And yes, I understand that things get delayed, but it looks like you're well on track. So thank you for what you're doing. I do have a question, and just thinking about just the bigger picture here, I wasn't aware that there were pickleball courts, which is great. One of the things that Tom had shared recently is our CIP budget going forward, and there's an item in there for pickleball courts at Valley View Park, which is just up, right up Jordan Creek Parkway and, a couple blocks to the west there. How do you see the pickleball courts at Valley View as compared to the pickleball courts here? Are they complementary in terms of, does it make sense to have them together? So they, if you're inside playing pickleball and it's a nice day out, you can go outside, or how does that work?
I would say our demand is probably going to be more the off season, more the cold season, right? They can play, and they like getting kind of like Iowa. I mean, you only have so much of outdoor time during the year, and even now it's starting to get cold. We've been fortunate so far here in getting this deep into December, but no, we'll complement them. We'll be able to. They're going to fill those courts, and the typical user are going to think about that. And it's free. I mean, when you're outside, it's a little easier. When you come inside, obviously, we have to charge a fee. We have funds to cover. And so that pickleball court for us, it's great. We also have that EMC multipurpose court is going to be lined for pickleball. So we'll have 2 portals, so we could have up to 5 courts potentially right here. But they can also be pulled all the sleeves, and we can use this for more than that. So again, we're trying to plan this for flexibility. That actually was, to your question, that was the Wolves practice locker room is where that space was. So when that went away, that freed up our space. We shrunk the batting cages area by about 4 feet, and we were able to fit 3 pickleball courts, right? Just trying to be ability to do that. But I mean, I've met with, I think it's Chuck is the director of the pickleball. And so he's ecstatic about this and has said it's going to be a great way to complement what the rest of the Park and Rec is putting up at Valley View.
Good. I didn't know if there were opportunity. You have plenty of space down there, so I didn't know if it was if there was efficiencies there. But hey, great. That's good to know. Thank you.
There will be a fee for the indoor courts, Matt, and the outdoor courts, there will not. So-
Okay, great.
And I'll tell you, you can't have enough pickleball courts for the new people on the council. If you haven't talked to the pickleball people yet, they'll find you.
Oh, yeah, I hear from Chuck regularly. I mean, he is, like you said, Shane, he is ecstatic about this.
I bet.
He's wanted dedicated pickleball courts for a long, long time, and so I'm really happy that we're getting him out at Valley View and then also down here.
Yeah. And then again, a good flexibility. They can come weekdays from 9 to 11. We can still bring that back open, and later at night we can have whatever it is, right? Where it's a birthday party or kids camp, where it's a flexible space. So we're excited for it.
Yeah, the variety and stuff. I mean, it's a public building, and I can't think of many more uses that you guys haven't talked about that's available. And when life gets back to normal, I can't think of a better location with all the shopping, the restaurants, and the hotels we have. I know when my son was in youth sports, I mean, it was 45 minutes from one field to the other, and you never knew where you were at. To me, the synergies of this facility, along with everything else we have so close down there, I think creates a really unique opportunity that there can't be many places in the whole Midwest that have those kind of facilities that close together.
Yeah, the indoor and the outdoor is going to be huge, and the synthetic turf. Right? You can be coming from Kansas City. You're not going to get rained out for a soccer tournament. If it happens to be lightning during the championship game, we can move it inside. Right? We have that flexibility to host those regional events is what it's, and like you said, that's what it's designed for.
How about the concession stand? Shane,
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay, so our main area, the RP Grill, which you can kind of see in the black with the red writing, that's going to be closer to almost bar and restaurant food. So we are working with Ellen over at Hy-Vee to have healthy options and potentially some salads where we can purchase the food from them. So that'll be an area. It's not a sit down. We have every restaurant imaginable up on Jordan Creek. So we don't need a full restaurant in there, but we want some healthy options and some food with some substance, because some people are going to be here. And when you're running to get your kids to practice after school, it's a lot easier to know, okay, I can get something good at the RP Grill as opposed to stopping at McDonald's, or nothing against McDonald's, but something that we know that's going to be a little healthier. So, and then we also have in the main arena, we have an auxiliary stand on the second level. And on the far right of the building, where it's a little white, we have another auxiliary stand that actually opens up right to the outdoor field. So we got some restrooms that come off there, as well as a concessions area that they can service the outdoor field as well as the indoor spaces. So yeah, that'll be under us. We're managing that ourselves. So again, more staffing opportunities for part-time help. Our guest services coordinator, like I said, is coming on at the end of the month here. That'll be under his watch.
And
Did you
don't-
bring food tonight?
Don't judge me, but I'm asking this from McKinney. Is there going to be adult beverages there too?
There is going to be adult beverages there. Yeah, we want to make this a
See, Matt, I
facility that
told
can,
you.
can maximize itself. So
I'll judge you, Russ.
And I saw that there is opportunities to
AA?
have corporate events, dinners and whatnot. So is there a banquet hall there? I mean, where's that food coming
So
from?
as far as the come and go community rooms, you can imagine those are like a hotel ballroom, carpeted floors, the
Right.
video screens. So with the Hy-Vee naming rights, they'll be our exclusive provider for catering events at the Recplex that we put on. Otherwise, it is open to other, if a wedding were to come in, they could pick a caterer of their choice. So it's going to be, we won't be doing the catering, but we'll have that relationship with Hy-Vee as well as open to other caterers that can come in.
Excellent.
But there won't be a place for someone to be preparing huge, large meals on site, right?
We have a small caterer's kitchen is right off that main entrance there. It's basically to the left of where the orange come and go rooms are. So that's basically the caterer's kitchen. So we're still finalizing the details on that, but yeah, we are setting that up so that way they can have the preparation right there.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right, great. Well, we appreciate the update.
Thank you all.
Looking forward to.
Thank you, Shane.
Can't wait for spring.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Shane.
Yes.
So Elizabeth joined us, so now we're back to 9A. Throwing me off going backward. So our DART update, is that Elizabeth's going to share with us?
Yep.
Okay.
You realize the chair is sitting right next to you.
I know, I was afraid. He said he wasn't saying anything else again, so I wasn't calling on him.
I do want to say something before.
Oh,
Elizabeth
boy.
gets
Oh, here we go.
After that comment earlier, Russ, I don't know.
I will be succinct.
Right.
So just to let you know, at DART, we have been working hard to be as efficient and effective as we possibly can be. And so with that, we've done a number of things. First, we've tried to right-size the buses. We've gotten a lot of complaints. There are a lot of big buses out there that don't seem to have a lot of people on there. It's a misperception, but nonetheless, we're trying to right-size the buses. So we ordered 5 30-foot buses, and we took a look. We delved into it. The 30-foot buses we thought were the best bang for the buck when it came to maintenance and longevity combined. We save a little bit, not a lot, by doing that. A little bit on the gas, a little bit on the bus itself. We've also gone in and we've looked at what we call our TOS, our Transit Optimization Study. We're looking at different models of transportation, using Uber, Lyft, cab companies, and just everything under the sun. And we actually put in place a Flex Connect in Urbandale that uses Uber and taxi. So we're looking at everything we can to be innovative with new different modes of transportation to try to save money that way and enhance the experience that way. We've also gone in at DART and we've put in a position review team like we have in the city of West Des Moines. If there's through attrition, positions come open, Elizabeth and her team sit down and discuss whether or not we need to refill those positions. And then last but not least, what we're going to go over tonight, this funding formula. We delved into the funding formula. We wanted to try to do the best we could to best align cost and benefit for every member community. And it's very difficult because we've got a lot of different communities in DART with a lot of different needs. But what we came up with here, I feel does the best that we possibly can to best align cost and benefit. And so that's what you're going to see here.
Sounds
All
like
right,
he teed you up,
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Russ.
You did a great job. So
Russ
thank you.
Succinct Trimble.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me the opportunity to provide a DART update this evening. Also, just appreciate Councilman Trimble's leadership on DART. He's brought a lot to the DART Commission, and then especially as chair. And so just appreciate your willingness to share him with us.
Please take him.
And as you can tell, he's very proficient and could give this presentation all on
Yeah,
his
he has a lot of
own,
energy,
so.
and if he's using it down at Darth, that's good for us.
The Diet Mountain Dew with Rooster Booster.
Oh, my God.
So tonight, just want to, I know I have not presented since COVID, and both Councilman McKinney and Councilman Hudson has joined the council since I presented last. So just give you a quick overview on our West Des Moines services, and happy to sit down and discuss them further in detail if that would be helpful. And then talk about our optimization study, the property tax formula, give you an update on some of the discussions the commissions have been having on our operations and maintenance facility, and then some of the things that we're continuing to work on. So West Des Moines, you have outside of the city of Des Moines have the largest amount of DART service. There are 3 express routes. You have 4 shuttle and express routes, as well as a significant amount of paratransit service. Not only our complimentary ADA service, but also we provide service to your congregate meal sites, as well as have worked in partnership over the last year or so on your ESL class transportation. As we look at service, and some of the priorities around that is wanting to make sure people can get to school and education, as well as medical appointments, as well and jobs. And so as we think about service here in West Des Moines, we've made tweaks and changes over the last couple of years. We've really prioritized those 3 trip purposes as it relates to service. And so you'll see here a map of the services, the express services, the 94 on Westtown Parkway, the 95 on Vista, and then the 96 on EP True. Express services are not all-day services, they're commute focused, so there's typically 3 or 4 trips in the morning and then 3 or 4 trips at night. So those trips primarily, the 95 and 96 are geared towards getting commuters to downtown Des Moines, where the 94 is really geared at getting people from the city of Des Moines or elsewhere in the region out to jobs on the Westtown Parkway area. The Route 72 is a bidirectional loop, and that is a shuttle service within all of West Des Moines. And that was one that we made changes to last October and expanded that service. It has grown significantly from when we made the changes last October, but it is one of the routes that has seen the least amount of decline in ridership throughout the COVID pandemic. And so it is a fairly robust in terms of ridership for a shuttle service. The 52 is a service that connects Jordan Creek with the Valley West Mall area, and then on to the city of Des Moines. So it runs express from the city of Des Moines out to Valley West, and then traverses between Valley West and Jordan Creek. We did make some changes last October. You'll probably remember, I know we had a few meetings with City Manager Tom Haddon on the Wells Fargo site because they were concerned about losing access directly on campus. What we did do is modify how we go in and out of the campus there, but we were able to better serve Walmart as well as the apartments in and around there with the changes we made. And then lastly, the Route 3, which is our University Avenue corridor. That is probably our premier, most ridden route within the whole system, and that connects the city of Des Moines along the University Avenue corridor to the Valley West Mall area, where it then also connects with the 72 and a couple of other services. And so that is one of our most highly ridden routes, and the Valley West Mall stop is very popular. Any questions on the service? Okay. So the transit optimization study, the goals of that study are to optimize our existing services, making sure we're as efficient and as effective as possible, making sure we're identifying the evolving transportation needs of the region as we continue to grow. How do we best serve those areas? And then also evaluating innovative service delivery models such as microtransit, where there's a small shuttle vehicle in a designated area, and you leverage technology to dispatch the ride or hail the ride. And then also thinking about other first and last mile services, such as partnerships with Uber and Lyft and other service providers. And then at the end, we hope to develop a long-term vision for DART service into the future. The last plan that was adopted by the commission was done in 2012, and the Des Moines region is much different now here in 2020 than it was in 2012, and so wanting to make sure we can get that updated. So as we look to the future, what we anticipate, the changes that the TOS will bring forth in the recommendations is substituting low productivity routes for other sorts of services. Like I had mentioned, other service delivery models, with whether it be microtransit and those smaller shuttles utilizing technology or partnerships with Uber and Lyft. It also will look at how do we best expand to meet service in those developing areas. We know here in West Des Moines, we regularly get requests for Edgewater. We know with DMU and the Recplex and DMAC here in kind of your growing area here of West Des Moines, how do we best serve that? Because we know, you want to make sure that everybody can access those facilities, and, having transportation will be important to make sure that that access is available. And then other things we're looking at are mobility hubs, so where you can congregate multiple services in at once. So locations like where you would have scooter service, you'd have DART service, maybe it'd be an Uber pickup area, as well as other sorts of transportation modes, and they could have a car rental or a car share type service there as well, and just providing easy access. And then lastly, is looking at our corridors and making sure we're providing the best service possible on those corridors, and that it connects in with the rest of the system and some of these other emerging transportation options. Any questions on that? So we have kicked that study off at the beginning of the last year. We've been continuing to do analysis and work on it. The commission has also had a few additional workshops here this summer. But here this spring, we hope to do a widespread public input process as it relates to the plan, and also be able to work with you, the city of West Des Moines, on getting the word out, and so that we can solicit good public input on the plan. And then also meet with all of you to see where, how we best meet the needs of West Des Moines as we look to the future from a transportation standpoint. And so we'll be garnering all that feedback in the spring and summer, with the hope that we will have a recommendation for an integrated mobility plan next fall that the commission will be able to adopt. So some of the other things we're working on, as Russ said, the 30-foot vehicles, there's a picture of one there on the left. Russ considers them very cute. That is normally the adjective used when he describes them. And then the Flex Connect, which is our partnership with Uber on our Flex Connect zone up in Urbandale. We're going to be looking to expand that here and replace an additional fixed route service here later in the spring. And then on October 1st, we unveiled the state of Iowa's first electric bus. And those will actually be going into service tomorrow on the Route 60, which is the University Ingersoll Loop route in the city of Des Moines. So looking forward to that and being able to collect data here shortly and find out how we do as it relates to fuel economy versus electricity being used, as well as the opportunity for saving on maintenance costs as well. So
Elizabeth, how many of the electric buses do you have?
7.
7? Okay.
So
What's been so far the reaction to the rest of those cute buses, the 30-foot buses?
they're been really well received by all the commission and the riders. They're just shorter and there's a few less seats on them. So we have gotten positive feedback on that as well.
Good.
I'm curious on the, excuse me, on the electric buses. What's the experience been and what's the vision going forward? Is this a trial run or is this kind of a slow migration to the fleet?
So it's a pilot to kind of see how they work and do they perform as specified by our manufacturer. So we're very hopeful that we'll get the fuel economy and the range. You know, being able to have a vehicle out all day versus having to bring it in or change drivers midday is, you know, that's costly. And so wanting to ensure that range will last us all day. Also being able to see if different sorts of types of routes also change the range. So having an express route that's going 65 miles an hour, you know, for long durations, for multiple trips, does that change it versus kind of the, you know, the lower speed routes that have a lot of stop and go that you are able to take advantage of that regenerative braking. So those are the things we'll be looking at, as well as kind of the maintenance savings. So the pilot is really to start to garner information such that we can make a more informed decision about the future. I know there is interest from a lot of different commission members to be able to expand the program. And I know Mid-American is also interested in helping support that should DART decide to expand the program. But
And the buses that we bought so far, I mean, and, you know, Mayor County is very excited about expanding this. I think Josh Mandelbaum, who's their commissioner, is also excited. A lot of us are, as Elizabeth said. And but, you know, we got to study these, see how they go. But these initial buses, I want to say, City of Des Moines actually put their money where their mouth was, and they put up a bunch of money to buy some of these, as did Mid-American Energy contributed to it. I think we got federal grants for this. I mean, there really wasn't a lot of local money involved in, local government money, I guess, involved in purchasing these initial buses, I don't believe, so.
Elizabeth, you said these are the first in Iowa. What other metro transit authorities around the country are using them?
So Duluth and Metro Transit, Duluth up in Minnesota, so does Metro Transit in Minnesota. I mean, I could go on and on. They're being widespread. I mean, it's.
Have they had theirs for a while?
Duluth they had one of the first or second generation ones. They have an older model, and so one of the things is that we delayed our project by close to a year so that we could get a newer model that offered better battery power options, recognizing we're going to keep these for 12 years. And so we want to make sure we're getting the most range possible. And just battery technology is evolving daily. And so just wanting to get the best that we could get.
Excellent.
That we could purchase. So a lot of transit systems, most of the systems in California have electric vehicles that they're piloting because of the emissions changes. Most California fleets will have to be all electric or non-emitting vehicles here in the next decade. So,
Okay,
Elizabeth,
thank you.
I have a question. How has COVID affected the revenue side of DART? When I worked in corporate America, corporations bought passes for employees and all of that. With most people not coming back now, a lot's until June. It's being pushed back. It was March, now it's June. How's the business being affected by COVID, which a lot of people are working from home, and they're not going to invest in bus passes, I guess, for a while, I would imagine. I don't know. And then secondly, are there municipalities pulling out of DART, or are you enhancing your territory? What's going on with regard to other municipalities and the partnerships with DART?
yep. All right, I can answer both those. So from a revenue standpoint, we generate about 20% of our overall revenue ourselves through fares and contracts. And so our ridership, we have seen between a 40 and 50% loss in ridership through COVID. So we have seen some impact to that fares and contracts revenue piece. So it is down. We were very we have been working with our partners to ensure that we're maintaining our relationships. So many of them we've given discounts through the pandemic, such that they just don't want to leave that partnership relationship altogether. And so we've been really successful in maintaining those relationships that we've had with businesses. And with Des Moines Public Schools coming back in a hybrid fashion, we were able to also maintain that revenue, which is a significant amount of revenue on an annual basis, given that we're going to have to run service every day, even though it's not all the kids every day. So that contract did not diminish much. But one of the things that has been helpful to DART is that the federal government, as part of the CARES Act, DART did receive a large amount of funding to help bridge the gap and plug holes as it relates to our overall revenue. So DART did receive just over $19 million. We have not touched a lot of it, but we have been using it to fill revenue gaps. We do anticipate DART's given that we're property tax funded, we will be a lagging indicator on the pandemic and from a funding standpoint. And so we are working through a cash flow plan and a funding plan as to how best to use CARES Act, realizing that our impact is going to likely come in another year or two with property valuations.
Yeah, and I will hand it to Elizabeth and her staff. They're just like our staff. They are on the ball. They're thinking of these things well in advance. The questions that you brought up, I mean, our advertising revenue that we bring in, we've got a contract with a firm there that we have a guaranteed minimum amount that we're going to get. So if they don't sell, what they thought they would, we'll get a minimum amount of advertising dollars coming in. And these guys have really been proactive and jumped ahead of that. Same thing with our rideshare program. To your point, a lot of people not coming into work, or they were only coming in certain days, or they were different schedules where some people were coming in a few days a week and not coming in. So we looked and offered some flexibility in the rideshare program as well to try to keep those customers through COVID.
Elizabeth, how many West Des Moines riders are there on an annual basis? I was just kind of poking around the website just to see, and looks like 4 million on fixed route, and I didn't know how many of those came from West Des Moines. You said we were the second most after Des Moines.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had those numbers. Not to put you on the spot too much or anything.
I don't have it right off the top of my head. And what's a little challenging is I know how many people ride, how many rides we provide on each route. What I don't know is necessarily how many people in total that equates to, because not everybody rides. We may have 500 people consistently every day on a route, but it may not be the same 500 people every day. Sure. And so we don't have trackers on everybody, and so that's a little challenging question to answer, and it's one that we get quite a bit. But I can get you an estimate of how many rides we provide in the city of West Des Moines, non-COVID, if that works.
That's probably the more appropriate question. I had asked specifically the number of people, but I was more asking the number of rides, so thank you for helping clarify.
I did get after that question, Greg. I did get after that. I've asked that before. Other people have asked the same thing, but there are a lot of people that pay cash fares, and not everybody can do technology. There's no good way to have unique riders, so. But we can get the rides.
Yeah.
So a little bit, our property tax initiatives kicked off last fall. We've been working with Scott Racker with the Robert D. and Billy Ray Center to help facilitate a bunch of workshops with the commission to talk about the formula. And we spent 3 workshops talking about the principles, and then 1 talking about the actual formula itself. And so just give you a little bit of background information. DART's budget for this year is just shy of $37 million. 62% of our revenues do come from local property taxes. As I mentioned earlier, 21% comes from fares and contracts. 11% comes from federal funding and grants that we receive from the Federal Transit Administration. 4.6% comes from state funding. Our state funding is a small percentage of fees on new car sales. So And that is distributed by a formula across all transit systems in Iowa. And then we have some other miscellaneous revenue. From an expense side, as you can imagine, the bulk of our expenses are people driving the vehicles, as well as what's needed to put vehicles out on the road. So your equipment repair parts, fuels and lubricants, and then the cost of other costs of running vehicles. So here is our current levy rate structure for all of our member communities. The property tax levy rates range from about 95 cents in Windsor Heights and just shy of 95 cents in the city of Des Moines, down to 54 cents in unincorporated Polk County. And then there's also the cost there for a $200,000 home, what that levy rate equates to. So
Can we go back to that?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we know what our total is for West Des Moines? Is it 3.5, 4.5 million all in?
That I can't remember.
That was the one spreadsheet I didn't bring with me. So
I thought the brief
it's
year I
over-
spent on there, it's a
over 3
big
mil.
number. Yeah, it's a big
over
number.
3 million.
I'd be interested that, and then taking into consideration Greg's number, or Greg's question on the number of rides.
Dividing that out and seeing what the average cost per ride is in West Des Moines versus some of the other communities.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
It's going to be, see, and we got all into that when we came up with this formula, because, rides in the city of Des Moines where it's more dense, the cost per rider is going to be a lot less. It's going to be more expensive, the cost per rider, to go all the way out here and back and forth. But
Yeah.
yeah, we've been all over this thing.
That's right.
So the goals of the property tax initiative were really to meet the regional intent of DART, to allow for DART's member communities to continue to find value in maintaining their membership, and to provide flexibility for DART to meet future needs of the community. The initiative really got started after we had reconstituted our governance, which we appreciate Mayor Gare's leadership as we work through that. Wanted to get the governance right, and then start to talk about funding. And so, we kicked that off here this last winter. So the operating values which the commission worked under, and I can tell you they held true to this, is making sure that it was an open and inclusive process, that everyone was good listeners and respectful of all perspectives. That they did work to find consensus through the process, recognizing that the end solution will not likely be a perfect solution for everyone. And that success was really working to find a formula that aligns the cost and benefits to member communities and factors in the importance of regionality and how people travel. So again, I said they had 3 workshops that were specifically they focused on the property tax formula principles. And the 7 principles that came out of those discussions was ensuring that the formula had long-term viability, predictability, transparency, a regional mindset, that there was equity built into the formula, and that communities had some base level of support component in the formula, and that we were thinking creatively about it. So we looked at several different options, 5 in total, and then some variations on each one of these. And the first was looking at just a flat rate, so everybody paying the same levy rate across all of DART's member communities. The second one was having a base buy-in, and then the second component of that being service. So there would be a set cost that everybody paid in the same rate, and then the second variable would be the level of service that community receives. The third option they looked at was just totally based on population. The fourth was just totally based on the level of service that each community receives. And then the fifth option, which was the preferred option as they moved out of, as part of their discussion, was was looking at the shared benefits that the city of Des Moines services had, and then and kind of attributing a percentage based on that. And then for all the other member communities, it would be based on population and service tiers. And so the preferred option is schematically shown here. So currently, with this current budget year, we collect $22.46 million. And so of that, if you were to implement the new formula, 49.2% of that $22.46 million would be attributed to the city of Des Moines. And that it recognizes, and there was a lot of discussion about this, is that just because the service in the city of Des Moines is within the city of Des Moines, there is benefit to other communities with that service. And so wanting that it couldn't be a one-to-one with that the city of Des Moines paid for all of the service in the city of Des Moines given that shared benefit. And then all of the other member communities, that remaining 50.8% of the 22.46 would be allocated 50% based on population and then 50% based on service tiers. And so there's 4 service tiers outlined there, whether you have extensive 7-day service, a limited amount of 7-day-a-week service, if you just primarily have regular express service, and then if you only have limited trips, paratransit, or mobility on demand. And so West Des Moines falls in that tier 2 of having extensive 7-day-a-week service. Any questions on that? So when you apply the formula, this is kind of what you get from a percentage standpoint. The gray bars are the current formula and what percentage of the levy each community pays. So West Des Moines currently, out of that $22.46 million, currently pays 19.5%. With the new formula, the city of West Des Moines would go to 21.6%. The biggest change, though, is for the city of Des Moines, who would go from 35.3% to 49.2% of the share of the levy. So how the formula is applied, we determine the total amount of DART property taxes needed. We allocate that a dollar amount, that 49.2 to the city of Des Moines, and then that remaining 50.8 is allocated to those other member communities, 50% being on population, and then 50% based on the service tier. And in order to levy over that 95 cents, state legislative action would need to take place. As we went through the process and we're talking about this, we recognized that there was a significant lift for the city of Des Moines. And so did talk with them about the impact that the levy or that the new formula would have on them. And they came back with some requests of the commission. The first is phasing in the new formula over 8 years rather than 5 years. And then secondly, is that the DART Commission start to think about different funding sources, others, or supplement property taxes, rather than requesting an increase to the DART property tax as we work with the legislature this session and then sessions to follow. And that the city of Des Moines would then support the new formula by buying down their levy rate there for the first 3 years as we work to see if we could diversify or change altogether our funding source. So what the 8-year phase-in looks like is shown here in the graph. So the rate that each community will pay is a blended combination of the new formula and the old formula. And so the new formula will gradually come into play by 10% each year over the first 6 years, and then some larger scale jumps in the 7th and 8th year. And so when you look at the rates, this is what we are estimating them to be. And they can, and we also, as we built our model and trying to determine what these would be estimated at, there is a huge component on valuations. So if a community outperforms or has a significant amount of valuation increase, they would see a big change in their levy rate. Because again, you're just paying for a portion of kind of DART's overall property tax need. And so if you have more valuations or you're valuation rich, you would pay a lower levy rate than another community that may not have that luxury. So and again, we use very conservative estimates. So it does show that the rate would potentially increase for the city of West Des Moines in the outer years. But again, that could change if your valuations are fairly high. We had a model and use fairly conservative growth estimates.
So if the valuations grow, or we continue to have higher valuations, our funding formula goes up or down?
So
It's a percentage of the overall costs. And so we are always going to pay that percentage that we owe of the overall cost. But if the valuation grows, that's going to take care of our cost going up if the valuation grows. If the valuation doesn't grow or grows less than what they used on their conservative estimate, then our rate would potentially go up.
Now, I know there's a lot of, oh, Matt, were you still asking?
No, please.
I know there's a lot of complexity going into these rates. I'm just looking at 2029, for example, when that would put, using the estimates, West Des Moines at approximately a 0.92, somewhere around there, it looks like in 2029. And just to kind of throw out another city, it looks like Ankeny would be about half that at 0.45. But by 2029, Ankeny will have a far greater population, not far greater, but a much bigger population than the city of West Des Moines. But population is only a part of the formula, is that correct?
correct.
And so even though theoretically with more residents, they could be potentially using it more, but based on the routes of how they exist right now, because they're a tier 2 and we would be a tier 4, probably because of Jordan Creek Mall and the town center and all of the areas and West Town and the corridor, and so many more people come to work in West Des Moines than actually live in West Des Moines, and that's just not the same with Ankeny. But that difference would actually lead to, by 2029, a difference of double, as in the West Des Moines rate would be double of Ankeny, despite the fact that there would be a larger city by that point.
Yeah, and it comes down to the function of service, as you alluded to, is that West Des Moines has substantially more service than the city of Ankeny. So if their service level actually increased, then it would start to even itself out. But this was part, you alluded your comments. We spent a lot of time on talking on that because and thinking about the formula as it related to West Des Moines and Ankeny, because you are about the same size, but you have a huge differential in service. They only have the express route as well as a very small on-call service versus kind of the array of services that West Des Moines has. And so how do you, as you think about that cost and that benefit and how do they equal out, it creates a lot of complexity. And that's what we work to achieve with the formula by having part of that cost or kind of your base buy-in based on population, with that second component kind of being service.
But we're also looking at redoing the formula, relooking at, recalculating the formula based on growth, based on service level I can't remember where we left off. Is it every year or is it every couple of years? So if Ankeny grows more and they change their service, then these percentages of the total cost of DART are going to change as well. And their percentage will likely then go up as an overall percentage as they're growing and adding more service.
Sorry, but if that's the case, what it would look like if they chose to increase their service, those rates would come up. But based on these projections, it would almost disincentivize Ankeny and I can't control what Ankeny does by any means, but it almost disincentivizes Ankeny because by adding service, they would, and obviously if you add service, it's going to increase costs, but by using this formula, I'm sorry, I'm just learned about this tonight, so you have to bear with me, and I'm just
No,
trying to
that's fine.
get my head wrapped around a little bit. Does it not almost disincentivize Ankeny from expanding service because the consequence would be clear?
And that was also another challenge of the formula of that balance of being able to add service when it's needed.
Or in
So
the other
yeah,
way.
I mean, they would,
Encourage people to reduce service levels. Hey, let's cut our service level in West Des Moines and pay less.
Right.
But the problem is you've got to serve your people.
Yeah.
But that's a frustration that I've had, and Russ, you've had this as well, is
Yeah.
that there's no way that you guys have ever been able to document how many West Des Moines residents ride the bus. So we've got a 7-day service in West Des Moines because of the malls. Ankeny doesn't have a mall. So they've got people coming out of Ankeny to go wherever to go to work, okay? In West Des Moines, we've got people in West Des Moines that ride the bus, okay? I know that. But I've got to believe the majority of the people that are riding the bus are coming from outside of West Des Moines to then come to either the mall or Edgewater or Wells Fargo, whatever it might be, to work. So that's where I struggle with, that we're paying, in this thing, we're paying more, and you still can't quantify how many of our own residents ride this, and I just struggle with that we're still, even though Des Moines is going to pay substantially more, I still got to believe that we're subsidizing their residents to come into West Des Moines, and I don't like that.
Let me say a couple things on that. Number one, we realize that the cost and the benefit, we took the cost and the benefit like this and we moved it like this, okay? We realize with the equity in the system, you're never going to have it where each community is paying exactly dollar for dollar for the rider and the population. It's never going to work out that way. It just can't. And what the city of Des Moines would say, and I don't disagree with you, Kevin, but what the city of Des Moines would say is that, well, and I've heard it, you guys have a lot of low-wage jobs that you've added, and you don't have enough affordable housing. Now, I know you're working on it, but you don't have enough affordable housing, you got a lot of low-wage jobs. We're doing a lot of the lift here on affordable housing. That's where the affordable housing is, the city of Des Moines. So it's, yes, these people are living here, but they're trying to get to your low-wage jobs. And so why should we have to pay for them to get to your low-wage jobs when you're not doing the affordable housing like we are? So you start doing affordable housing or start paying more for the bus for the people to get to the jobs that they need to get to. So it's a really complex debate back and forth, and it does bring in affordable housing and jobs, low-wage jobs. We've got cost and benefit as aligned as it's ever been. To answer Renee's question, this conversation happens in every single council, including the city of Des Moines. And we've got a couple communities. We've had, 4 or 5 communities that have left DART over the last, 4 or 5 years or something. And we've got communities that are constantly looking at this and critical as they should be as to the bang for the buck and whether or not they should continue to be a part of DART. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to do everything we can, like I said, by right-sizing those buses, by doing that transit optimization study and trying to come up with, other business models to put in place. Having looking at the staffing when possible, and then trying to best align cost and benefit so that it makes sense. And right now, even though the city of Des Moines hates, and when I say hates, it's with a capital H, they hate this new formula. They realize it's fair as it can be because it does take into account population and service levels. Does it do a one-to-one? No. But with this, I think the city of Des Moines, when this is fully implemented, is going to potentially have, a 50-cent increase in their levy rate? So it's a very heavy lift for them. We've done the best we can to make this funding formula as fair as it can possibly be. But, it's not easy, and yet we need to maintain a regional system too. Having a system that doesn't make it to all of the different cities out here doesn't make any sense.
and
What communities have left DART then that are listed on here? Are they not listed?
They're not on there.
They're not on here.
What
so
ones have listed?
Polk
have
Polk
left it?
City, Mitchellville have left. Who
Elkhart,
else?
Alleman,
Alleman.
Okay,
Carlisle. So they were all cities
Okay.
that had no service to begin with.
okay.
So when you, Russ, you mentioned that the levy rate in Des Moines will go up 50 cents?
55.
55 cents per thousand?
Assuming that
so-
they don't grow, assuming that their taxable valuation doesn't grow, the higher your taxable valuation,
Yeah.
the lower you can put your tax rate.
But I guess what I'm getting at, if the legislature caps your levy rate at 95 cents per thousand, are they at like 40-something now?
94.
So how do they add 50 cents if it's capped?
They're going to use their own money internally. They're going to use other funding sources to be able to pay their fair share.
That's in the
Okay.
first 3 years, though, you said.
Yeah,
Correct.
for the first 3 years. And I think.
What after that?
The conversation gets to why property taxes are really challenging to fund a regional transit system and the parochialness of it. And that, the commission would really like to see a different funding source that had a more regional kind of intent, such that it's easier to think about funding where service should be and making sure that the service is where the service is needed. Because right now, there's a balance where service is needed, as well as maintaining a level of coverage across the region that, you may rethink some of those resources, but you want to keep everybody in the fold. And so it's a balancing act.
It is, and it's a balancing act, and we've had people leave already. Right now, we've got 12 communities left in DART, and we're trying to keep everybody together because it makes the most sense for the region. And so we're trying to do our best we can to align that cost and benefit and try to do everything we can to be innovative and creative. And
But if those cities that left didn't have service anyhow, I mean, where did you lose? They couldn't have been paying anything if they didn't have service.
Still pay.
they still pay.
Couldn't have been much, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a lot, but I mean, they did pay in.
Have there been, from these cities, from Ankeny and Clive and Grimes and Johnson and Pleasant Hill and Polk County and Urbandale, in the cities that their rates go down over the next 10 years, have they had any overtures of stating that they might be considering leaving, and so this is almost a way to say, hey, it's okay, we'll lower these rates?
So let me answer that.
Yeah.
I meet on a pretty regular basis with a bunch of different representatives from these communities, and that conversation has been out there for a number of years. And there have been a number of communities taking a look at that and being very critical. And there are two that are seriously considering it right now. So knowing that, what we've been trying to do, like I said, is try to make this so that it's worthwhile for them and it makes sense, because a lot of them have been feeling, a lot of the communities have been feeling like the lift has been too heavy, especially for the service that they have in their communities. And so we've, again, been trying to look at the service that's provided, try to make cost and benefit better align. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can try to do what you can to get more riders, or you can try to reduce the cost. We've been trying to do everything, okay? And then looking at other modes of transportation, trying to come up with lower cost solutions that also enhance ridership. And so we've been trying to do that all, but we've been having this debate back and forth, and believe me, this thing will go round and around and around on affordable housing, low-wage jobs. Matt, your question about, how efficient is a ride, from downtown to West Des Moines versus downtown to downtown. I mean, you got Josh Mandelbaum saying it's much more efficient for us. The cost per rider is much lower if we have to come all the way out to West Des Moines. That's more inefficiency in the system. And then that's another thing, as communities are planning, and now we do have, as Elizabeth mentioned, we've got the RecFlex, and we've got, that whole area developing out there. When we develop areas that are off the bus line, and each 12 communities do that one time, we're expanding service, expanding cost, and then people say, why is the cost going up? Sure.
How about Waukee, Norwalk? You talked about communities that have decided to move away from DART. Are there communities that are
Yes.
exploring it? And how does this rate incentivize that or not?
Yeah, we've taken that all into consideration when coming up with this funding formula, because we do plan to sit down with Waukee and Norwalk and bring them into the fold. But before we can do that, we've got to get our house in order here and make sure that we have the best funding formula that has the cost and benefit closely aligned, and we are as efficient and effective as we possibly can be. And we keep the team together that we have now. And then, yes, we plan on talking to Waukee and Norwalk, and I think Elizabeth's already had some conversations.
We have over the years, it's just haven't quite gotten there. Most recently, we were hoping to sit down with, I know they have a new mayor and some new council members at the beginning of the year, but the pandemic kind of took away, and then wanting to make sure the formula is right. So we will be reaching out to them here in the weeks to come to have that conversation. And I would encourage you to have that conversation with them. My voice and our voice as staff only goes so far. I think, the political pressure around it would be helpful as well.
Can I give you a little other perspective? I was the board member before Russ, and then he was giving me so much advice, I say, you do it. Because it's a very difficult job, and trying to balance regionalization and regionalism. But I want to bring up a couple of things. One is, DART theoretically can go up to 95 cents per, that board can decide to go the levy rate up to 95 cents on their own. But this board is under, the levy rate's under a great microscope, because last year, after one of these discussions, or 2 years ago, I was at a WRA board meeting, and I asked the board members, I go, so what percentage do we just increase sewer rates? They go, I don't know. I go, you don't know? Like 6-7%. And our water, West Des Moines Water Works tonight increased rates 10%. So all these other boards, or Metro Waste Authority, they can increase your waste fees, and they don't technically have to come back to this board for approval. So it's a challenging thing, because of so many people have cars and we use them here. But I do think it's still for the future. I still think we have, as Russ is talking about housing and other options, we still have to consider that also. And I think it'll give us an advantage at times, because we do offer transportation for people to get back and forth. But just to give you another insight onto regional versus and what they can and can't do.
Well, I appreciate what the comments are. I mean, it's important that we be able to have a means by which folks can come here and fill the jobs that we have in our community. I've heard the mayor say time and time again, we've got 65, 70,000 people that live here, but during our days, the population grows to 130,000 people, and that's because people come into our community, they need a way to get here. I completely understand that. And I also appreciate the fact that folks come here and they'll go to Jordan Creek, they'll go to the Recplex in the future, but when they go to Jordan Creek and some of these other facilities, we're going to have local option sales tax dollars that are captured. Now, it'd be nice if the state's funding formula allowed those local option sales tax dollars stay in the community where they're generated in some instances. But I guess, so I appreciate that. I just look at this chart, and it's a bit frustrating to see Ankeny, how we hear their population goes up, and yet their formula goes down. And you really see that about 80% of those.
Grimes is the same way.
And
It's population and service. And Grimes and Ankeny have some of the lowest levels of service out there.
But again, they've got people coming out of their city to go to work, and nobody's going into Grimes on a bus.
That might change. I mean, Amazon's in Grimes now. I mean, you got the Holmes, Murphy, and Waukee. That might change. And I mean, I was on to try to help the governance, because one of the frustrations, including West Des Moines, was we didn't have our own vote. So I think that helped to keep these groups in. But to Russ's point, if Ankeny gets frustrated enough just to say it's cheaper for us to buy a $1,000 Uber card for our citizens, we're out, then all the rest of our costs go up. And so part of the challenge is trying to find the balance where you can keep these major cities still part of the funding formula without them just saying, we'll see you guys later.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and it's also a function of the valuation. So some communities have more in TIF and locked up in other ways than others, and so that also contributes to it as well.
I'd just like to add to, as we have dialogue about it, Elizabeth, I appreciate and understand that this is complex and very difficult when you're talking about 12 municipalities, all with their own opinions, trying to find a formula that's so consistent, but yet every community is so different. So I realize the complexities of what you guys in your commission or board has had to wrestle with. But what I just like to say is that this is really a shine a light about affordable housing. It really is. I know that a lot of people don't like to talk about it, and some people think it's a dirty word. And I'm here to say it's not a dirty word. And it is, this has shined a light about the importance and the value of having more affordable housing so that people aren't living in other communities and they can live and work in the communities that they serve. And I was at Quiznos one day talking to a lady that works 2 jobs. And she, here in West Des Moines, 2 retail jobs, okay, to make ends meet. But she's living in Des Moines because she can't afford West Des Moines. And I'm not saying that there's not some affordable housing, but I think we need to keep our eye on the prize as it relates to a community that has so much retail and has so many minimum wage jobs that we need to make sure that folks that are working these places that we want them to serve, that helps our city be vibrant, that we're finding creative ways to have them live here and afford to live here. And that really is the bigger issue that we as elected officials have to solve and discuss and have the muscle power to change and try to help make that happen.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
You know, and making sure that that housing, as you think about the location of that you're thinking about where there are transportation options. Because as I said, the Route 72, which is your bidirectional shuttle here in West Des Moines, that route saw the least amount of ridership loss across all of our routes as part of the pandemic. And it really does connect a lot of where your housing is with your jobs here in West Des Moines. So.
Well, and this is the point that I just made a moment ago, and that I'll make again. It's so important, and I brought this up at DART, I don't know how many times, for all the commissioners to take back to their councils. And Mayor, you're the first one to say that it's you can't really tell development where it should go, because development will decide, the market will decide where it wants to go. But to the extent possible, we need to do everything we can to try to, direct where it goes to some extent, because if it does start going in a direction where, they're going to require or have certain jobs that pay a certain amount, and they're going to require a bus service, and we don't have a route there, you can imagine if that's happened once in each of the 12 communities, then we're just expanding where a bus route currently isn't right now in each one of these communities 12 different times. And then we come back to these tables and say, why are our costs the way they are at DART? Because people, as they're planning and doing their comprehensive plans, they're not planning for that. And then we get, announced that there's a, Amazon in Bondurant. Well, we got to provide bus service. That cost us an additional more than $75,000. It was $75,000 above and beyond what our budget could hold to get bus service there. Amazon demanded it. So it wasn't an option, but it wasn't on the bus route where they went. So.
Okay, well, we appreciate the overview. Like I said, you could spend hours and hours and hours talking about all this. I think part of the goal tonight was to give everybody a little bit more of a overview on kind of where things are and these next steps. So I know we appreciate, Russ, your time and effort on there, because we know you're passionate about it, and we got a lot of confidence in you're looking out for the things that are concerning to us as well.
I'm trying. I appreciate it, Mayor.
So just to wrap up, I have one more thing or from a timeline on this, and then one other thing to mention is that I'm in the process of doing member community outreach now, and then into early January, we anticipate the commission voting on the formula in February, and the new formula would be incorporated into our FY22 budget projections for levy rates and what would be certified by the state. Another conversation that the commission has been having over the last year is how best, or what's the best way to facilitate an operations and maintenance facility into the future. Our current facility is past its useful life. It was built in the mid-70s, and they did an excellent job of value engineering it and put all the mechanical systems underground in tunnels we are in the floodplain. And while it is levee protected, those tunnels see water quite regularly. The building's been underwater before in '93. It took in a lot of water in 2008. It's also landlocked, and that all the major mechanical systems have to be replaced. In our main storage barn, which you see there to the right, we have over 100 garage doors, and they're all very narrow and very short. None of those garage doors can an electric bus go through them, and to be able to put an electric bus in the garage to store it. So they're actually in a pole barn that's on the site. And so one of the things is we recognize kind of the amount of repair and investment that needed to happen with that 1100 Dart Way. We did want to do an analysis to see whether it made more sense to continue to invest in that facility and put funding into it, or would it be better to invest in a new facility? And so the commission has been weighing through that. They'll take up this discussion in more earnest after the first of the year. The Federal Transit Administration, which is our governing body at the federal level, has made a decision that they will not allow us to use any discretionary funds at our existing facility, given kind of the constraints that it presents us. So we have started looking at grant funding opportunities, and do believe that there is an opportunity to reduce the actual local costs to taxpayers with building the new facility versus the existing maintenance, rather than continuing to invest in our existing maintenance facility due to the level of discretionary grant funding we would be able to get potentially. And so, again, just wanted to apprise you of that discussion. The commission will be taking that up in more earnest after the first of the year. And so, as we look to the future, just want to remind you that we are trying to be as efficient and effective as possible and being responsive to you as our member communities. And so we are regularly, as Russ has alluded to, trying to find efficiencies and leveraging technology, looking at different and more sustainable funding options, as well as always evaluating our communities and riders' needs, and then continuing to examine new mobility options for the region as we march towards 1 million people here in the next couple of decades. So thank you again. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly, and happy to answer them.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you, Russ.